Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to the channel. It is, as I check my phone, Wednesday, May 8th, 7:58 in the morning on the East Coast, and we're going to break down this two-game NBA playoff slate tonight. Thank you for joining me today. It's been a blast breaking down these playoff slates. Last night was a successful night, 4 or 5xing the money, landing on a lot of the Nuggets guys as that eventually paid off. Blowing out 2 blowouts last night, which we have not yet seen in these playoffs for the most part on a 2-game slate. They've been pretty close games. Still, it's the playoffs, so these teams, you had Giannis closing. You had a couple nights back, you had Giannis and Middleton closing in what turned into sort of a blowout. You had players last night closing for the most part. Jokic was in with like 4 minutes left in the game. You're going to see that in the playoffs just because the games matter more. They're not going to just sit out the whole fourth quarter. They have to make sure that they close it out. So that's the nice thing about the playoffs. We don't get too many blowouts because it's competitive teams, but when we do, it usually doesn't factor too much. Yes, those extra 4 minutes for Mason Plumlee were huge if you played Mason Plumlee. Instead of him getting 12 fantasy points, he ends up with 20 because he just went off because he was the only a good or great player on the floor, at least during that time. Maybe great's a little bit much, but compared to the relative to the rest of the players on the court. But this is your first time here. My name is Sal Vetri. I cover daily fantasy sports for NFL. Keep saying this, cannot wait for the NFL, cannot wait for preseason NFL and just really August once it starts to become a lot closer. I cover the NBA, which we're doing right now, a little bit of MLB, golf, and an update on the golf video. I made a golf video yesterday, and my computer just ended up, and I apologize for the sniffle, I'm battling through a little bit of a cold. My computer just ended up getting too much storage on it. I hadn't deleted like all the other videos that I've been making or the streams. So I ended up doing that, but it ended up losing the footage, so I didn't have time to make another one yesterday. I'm probably not going to have time to make one today, so I apologize for AT&T, Byron Nelson. My video will not be up, which I'm sorry. I will have PGA Championship. That is going to be well ahead. The lineups and salaries, I believe, are already out for that, so that will be up soon, so keep an eye on that. But if you want golf content, Pat Mayo is great. Rick Run Good is great. Both of those on YouTube, so check that out for sure. But let's break down into this video. Hit me with a thumbs up. My question of the day today, you drop down in the comments. And if you're new here, drop down in the comments. Let me know that you're new. Subscribe, notification bell, all that jazz for the YouTube crowd. But let me know tonight, who do you think will be the highest scoring player on the slate? Really easy. Just pure points, not point per dollar. So Giannis or Harden, pretty much, right? Or will it be somebody else? Will it be Durant? Will it be Steph Explosion 12-3 night? Let me know who you think the highest scoring player on the slate is tonight. I'm very curious. I think it's Giannis, which, I mean, the salary indicates that. I'm not hiding anything there, but I think it's Giannis. So, oh, that is gross. My bad. Andre Iguodala. I will try to halt that as much as I can. Andre Iguodala injury report. He's probable. They already said he is for tonight, so nothing to really worry about. Maybe he lost a few minutes in the last game due to this injury, so his lowest minutes yet, 29.8 if you want to get technical, so pretty much 30. Daniel House Jr. has not played, I don't believe, in the past 2 games. That has helped Iman Shumpert reach some minutes. Iman Shumpert touched 21 minutes in the last game. I imagine that stays pretty flat around 20 minutes if Daniel House Jr. remains out. Shumpert was already seeing some minutes, and now he's pretty much just gathering all of Daniel House Jr.'s minutes, and maybe even a little bit of those are going to Austin Rivers, which I don't believe they are. We'll get down into that in a little bit. Malcolm Brogdon already ruled out. It's very sad. I wish Brogdon could have played in this series, but it seems like they don't need him. And just for the crowd that was in the comments or on Twitter after I posted, I had a tweet before this series. I said Warriors in 7, which seems like it's going that way. I really don't care who wins that series. I just want to see it go 7 games. And then I had the Bucks in 6, but I'm tempted to say 5. And obviously after game 1, I got a lot of backlash for that when they got blown out. Everybody was telling me the series is over. You really think the Bucks are going to win in 5? I said I was tempted to say 5. And I said, it's just 1 game. They're very suited and capable, and Vegas predicts them tonight, 8.5-point favorites to end it in 5. So that is to the crowd who was quick to the trigger in just a 1-game series. Or trying to think it was a 1-game series. But let's jump over to the target often sheet. Remember, drop down in the comments if you're new here. Tons of free stuff. And also, we're only 40 subscribers away as I make this video from 4,000. Let's get that today. We average around 30 to 40 on good days a day. We're getting tons of views on these videos. Let's get that. So if you can hit me with a thumbs up, it pushes it forward. If you're new here, if you like this video at all, hit me with a subscribe button. And I'm sorry if it's not what you're expecting throughout. Some people recently in the comments have said, these past 30 minutes wasted my time. That is, thank you for the viewership, I guess. Why did you watch the whole thing? Target offense sheet. Let it minimize this. Here we go. Milwaukee and Boston, Golden State, Houston, 2-game series, right? So we'll start with Milwaukee and Boston, the earlier game of the two. 218.5 implied total for this game. Milwaukee, a 113.5 implied team total. That is the highest on the slate. 105 for Boston implied team. Milwaukee's an 8.5-point favorite to finish this thing out in 5 games tonight. They are back on their home court. So, yeah, I believe it gets closed out tonight. I really don't think I don't see how it stays close. Well, I guess I see how it stays close. You limit Giannis and you limit Middleton, which they're both playing absolutely fantastic right now throughout the playoffs, and really in these past 3 games they've been playing fantastic. The whole Giannis can't shoot thing. I saw a tweet the other day. Giannis is shooting, albeit a limited sample in this series, like 15 to 16% better from three than Kyrie Irving. And also, just to put more on that Giannis can't shoot crowd, Giannis is above the league average. He's like 36% or somewhere around there. He's above league average shooting the three since the start of the new year, so since January. Again, not the biggest of samples compared to some other three-point shooters, but the whole he can't shoot crowd, okay, fine, he doesn't have a jump shot. There's a good amount of people. I mean, Russell Westbrook in the league who don't have a jump shot. That's not Giannis's game. He's a small forward, power forward hybrid. He lurks around the rim. He knows he doesn't have a great jump shot. That's why he doesn't force a jump shot. So that takes a little bit lazy. But just getting into the teams, Giannis, again, look, these videos might start to seem repetitive like yesterday. I liked Jimmy Butler. I liked a little bit Embiid just because of the lower price point, and I liked Tobias Harris from that Philly team, and pretty much Butler above the rest of those guys, and he ended up being the only guy to really, really get you there. Tobias Harris had a fine game, but nothing spectacular. And the same thing from those Raptors games. I mean, I liked Lowry to a good extent. I loved Kawhi once again. I was late on Siakam, I'll admit that. I did not think Siakam was going to come back, and maybe it was a little bit too cautious on my part. He came back, he scored like 46 fantasy points, looked absolutely fine. So that was something definitely missed out on, but it did not affect too many of my lineups for the most part. But today, once again, Giannis and Middleton. Look, these two guys in the last game, even though it started to blow out, they still closed the whole game. They finished pretty much on the court together for the final 12 minutes. The only two Bucks to play the final 12 minutes of the game were these two. That is good to see. Giannis only had 34 minutes in the last game. Don't look too much into that. Giannis picked up his fourth foul about 4.5, 5 minutes into the third quarter. So he came out and he sat for about 4 minutes, and then he came back in, or he would have sat his normal rotation, which would have been like 2 minutes, but he ended up sitting for like 5.5, 6 minutes. So Giannis, I had projected for 38 minutes today. I believe he would have saw those 38 minutes, if not for the 4 fouls. The early fourth foul in the third quarter, obviously have to take him out there. If he gets another fifth, then you're potentially missing most of the fourth quarter without Giannis if things go froggy. So, yeah, 38 minutes out of Giannis is what I project tonight. He got it done in 34 the other night. He finished the whole game. The foul trouble is the only thing that limited him. I have Giannis playing 38, and he's fine. I have Middleton playing 38. These two guys, again, are the ones playing the most minutes on this team. We saw Pat Connaughton run in there and just get 33 minutes. Really, not out of nowhere, because he's been seeing, 30 minutes. He saw 2 games ago, he saw 28. Or 3 games ago, he saw 30. 2 games ago, he saw 28. Then he sees 33. So for Pat Connaughton to be in the $3,700 price range those last 2 games, I slept on it. I'll be completely honest. I like George Hill a little bit more. That did not kill me. Hill played really fine in the last 2 games, but I just slept a little bit on Connaughton. Today, at $4,000, I think Connaughton is fine. Moving over a little bit more, it's getting to the point for Brook Lopez where he's been too cheap, but now he's very cheap. $4,300. You can kind of shoe him in for, in that range, there's not many guys that you can feel confident in getting you around 20 points or right at 20 points as a median projection. And then if he hits an extra 3 or 2, right, and he's been pretty bad, in terms of the plus minus for him on the court, but if he hits an extra 3 or 2, now you're in the 25-point range, and there he is at $4,300. I think there's some other nice plays in that range, right? You do have his teammates George Hill and Pat Connaughton right around $4,200 to $4,000. But that range overall, Brook Lopez is one of the guys that I feel most confident in getting that amount of points, especially back-to-back games of 29 minutes. That's a little bit reassuring. So you have kind of all these bucks that are in the value range, right? $4,200 George Hill. He's been playing 26, 27, 28 minutes around there. I have him at 27 minutes today. I have Connaughton at 28. I have Brook Lopez at 28. All these guys are on 28 minutes today, priced in the same range. I feel like that's where you have to get it right on today's slate. So we'll break down into it. So from Milwaukee, it's far and away Giannis. At 11-3, I have him playing 20 or 38 minutes if the game stays close, which Vegas is kind of projecting it to get a little out of hand. But either way, he played the full 12 minutes of the last game. So I have him at 38 minutes and 65 or 66 fantasy points as a median projection. Look, he hasn't put it all together yet. He has yet to play his full minutes allocated, whether it's blowouts, whether it's foul trouble. So he played his full minutes the game before this last one, right? He played 39 minutes. But he has yet to play 39 minutes and shoot above his average. He's been shooting below average or right around his average. If he has a game where he shoots above his average from the field and he shoots 50%, which again, look, he's not going to shoot 50% every day. He hasn't yet. But if he does do that and plays his 39 minutes, he's going to hit 80 fantasy points. Like, he has not hit his real ceiling yet. These 70-point performances are honestly at his 38, 39 minutes. They're his median projection for the most part. So that's where I stand on Giannis, far and away him. I really do like Middleton as well. 6,300 is way too cheap for a guy who's going to play that many minutes and has been having success. And I didn't touch on Bledsoe yet. $4,900 Bledsoe, albeit he's not playing the biggest minutes. He played, I think, 28 in the last one, and that was the most that he's seen in this series, I believe. So yeah, that many minutes out of Bledsoe is going to be nice at $4,900. It just depends on what the lineup construction looks like. Somebody asked me to incorporate more lineup construction into the videos. I would love to, but I've yet to make a lineup. It's 8 a.m. in the morning. I have all of my normal research. I try and get as much out of that research into this video as possible without making it 50 minutes to an hour, because then nobody would be watching these. So I really can't talk too much about lineup construction. I could hypothesize what I think it will be. I think that, these 2-game slates, it's going to be you pick your 2 studs, and if you don't pick a second stud at that higher tier range, whether it's you're either picking Giannis and Harden, or maybe both, and then you have to fill it in with value. If you're picking just Giannis, then maybe you go down a tier and you get Kyrie or Steph, or even potentially pay up for KD, but then you have to fill it in with value. Or you can just go Giannis, and you could fill in that mid-range with your Chris Middletons, with your Al Horfords, with your Draymond Greens, and you go very value in the middle range, and then you go very mid-range and then only need 1 or 2 value pieces instead of 3 or 4. So that's what lineup construction is just going to look like every day on these 2-game slates, because the salaries, the higher price guys are too cheap. Giannis and Harden, if they were playing these minutes, 40 minutes a game or close to it in the regular season, they would be priced at like 12.5. They're just way too cheap, or even higher, to be honest with you. So yeah, that's what lineup construction as a whole is going to look like. I don't know though. Individually, I have not broken down the slate yet and see how things fit, but $4,900 Bledsoe, I don't have to tell you that that's too cheap for a starting point guard, even if he only sees 25 minutes today. Yes, the matchup has been brutal. Yes, George Hill has been seeing more minutes, but they're alongside Bledsoe for the most part. They played many minutes alongside each other in the second quarter, I believe it was, like 6 or 8, and also then again in the fourth quarter, early in the fourth quarter before Bledsoe came out. So, yeah, that's what I'm looking at right now. It's Giannis, then Middleton number 2, and then the whole Bucks team I have interest in for the most part, like 6, 7 guys deep, because the prices are just also great, really on everybody on the slate, but their team specifically. Giannis, Middleton, everybody's too cheap, every single player. Giannis, Middleton, Pat Connaughton at $4,000 probably comes in next for me. I probably then go to Eric Bledsoe over George Hill for only $700 more. Look, the starter, yes, he's been having a rough time. He's still the starter and guaranteed to see around 26 to 28, when George Hill, I believe he sees 27, but he can get pushed down to 22. And then George Hill, and then Brook Lopez last. The guy I did not mention yet is Nikola Mirotic, and he only played 24 minutes in the last game. Pat Connaughton's extra 5 minutes of run, or extra 3 minutes of run that he got, 33 minutes is not what I expect out of Connaughton. He was playing well. They kept him out there for a little bit more spurts, pretty much. They went on a nice run, right? They went on a nice run with Pat Connaughton out there, so it extended his minutes for about 3 or 4 minutes during that run. Those pretty much directly took away from Mirotic, who only saw 24. I have Mirotic, and I'm very scared about this projection, but if he continues to start, I have him at 30 minutes once again. He was not in foul trouble. Connaughton was just playing great. I have Connaughton at 28 minutes, so I pretty much take those 5 minutes from Connaughton. I give him to Mirotic. That gives him 29. Ersan Ilyasova had 17 minutes in the last game. I took a minute off of Ersan, gave Mirotic 30, gave Ersan, I believe, 16. So Mirotic grades out as a top 5 value. If I give him 30 minutes in this game, he comes in around 27, 28 fantasy points. I understand that that's a bullish projection, and his price is now up a little bit, but I do like Mirotic. So I actually forgot about him after first just talking about all these guys. So it would be Giannis, Middleton, Mirotic 3 for me, then Connaughton. Bledsoe and Hill are very close. If you need the extra, if you can't fit Bledsoe, obviously Hill $700 cheaper. And then lastly, it's Brook Lopez. So that's 7 guys that I have somewhat of interest today. So it's going to be really tough building through this team. But again, I'm fine doing that on a 2-game slate. I'm fine out of those 7 guys, getting to 4 of them and feeling really confident. I got 4 Nuggets last night, and it worked out really well. We'll go to the other side. That was a lot of time spent on Milwaukee. Just keep in mind that Giannis' minutes at 34 are not his minutes for this series. He's going to play 38 or 39, if not 40, if the game stays close and he avoids foul trouble. He got in 4 fouls early in the third quarter last time, so that's the only reason. Him and Middleton are the only guys in this team you could feel confident. A lot of these other teams are only running 5, or really just 5, and then a little bit of a 6th man. The Bucks are running 7 or 8 if you count Ersan playing his 15 minutes. So you only have 2 guys playing over 35 minutes. That is Middleton and Giannis, and at their price points today, especially Middleton 6,300, it's just great. You can fit all these guys. Boston side of the ball, Kyrie's price doesn't change. He pretty much drops 50 points the last time out, and his price doesn't change. He's shooting very inefficiently. So this is another guy similar to Giannis. If he just shoots his average or a little bit above it, he's going to drop a 60-point performance, and he's only $8,200. So I like getting to Kyrie, especially in a game where, yes, they're going back on the road. Yes, their back's up against the wall. But give me Kyrie. I mean, he has to turn around this slump, and I guess he has to turn it around today, right? If they want to live to fight another day. $8,200 is too cheap. When I first looked at this slate, I went to Curry over Kyrie in the last game to try and get some leverage, and they pretty much scored the same amount of points, so it got me a little bit of leverage based on depending on who else I got in my lineup because he was a little bit cheaper. Now Curry's price is $7,900. The difference is only $300 instead of $500. I go to Kyrie here a little bit more, although Curry coming back home is nice. I just go to Kyrie here a little bit more because, again, yes, Curry was shooting super inefficient. He got a little bit more efficient in the last game. Now people might jump back onto him. Kyrie has been shooting very poorly. He's been taking, he says he took like 22 shots in the last game. He said he has to shoot more. He said he has to shoot 30 shots. I mean, he just has to make more shots. But if you're going to tell me that Kyrie's now going to be more aggressive and shoot 30 shots today at $8,200, and if he makes 15 of them, he's going to score. If he makes 15 of his shots today, he's going to score 60 points. He's going to shoot 30 times. He can make 15 of them. He's going to score 60 plus points. So yeah, I'm all in on Kyrie. Marcus Smart being back, played 14 minutes in the past game. I have him coming up a little bit. I have him playing 18 minutes. Would not be shocked if he played 20. I have those minutes directly taking away from one Terry Rozier, the biggest guy. He only saw 10 minutes in the last game after continuously seeing 20 a game in the playoffs. So he got his minutes cut in half with Smart coming back and playing 14. So I have those continuing to take away from Rozier. Have Rozier only around 6 minutes in this game. And then I have them starting to pull from Jaylen Brown, who saw 30 minutes in the last game. His minutes really, for the most part, didn't get too affected, right? He was seeing around 35 minutes a game, so 36 maybe if he would have played those full games. So I have 5 or 6 pulling from there, and then the rest of them pretty much pulling from Rozier. So if I add 4 more minutes, 2 or 6 more minutes, whatever it might be, to Marcus Smart today, say he plays 18 to 20, half of those are going to pull from Rozier, and then I have half pulling from, as of right now, Jaylen Brown. I have Jaylen Brown, I think, at 27 projected minutes today, which is still fine to play him, but his price point is up a little bit. So Marcus Smart, no real interest for me on FanDuel. Sure, he's probably one of the better punts unless his prices come up. Have not checked FanDuel, but that hurts Jaylen Brown for me, at least in my opinion. Terry Rozier is unplayable now. Jaylen Brown I don't want much of. If any, I'm probably not going to play him. I'll probably X him out of my player pool. As of right now, he is. You look at the 3, Jason Tatum's continuing to see 35 minutes a game. I think he's fine. I think the price point has come up now. We saw the Jason Tatum game. He's now played good in back-to-back games, I believe. So I'm fine getting back there. Let me just check Tatum for a second here. I believe it was 35 minutes. What did he play in the last game? Yeah, so that's back-to-back great games. He played 35 minutes. He shot well in the last game, 43%. Yeah, I think Tatum is still fine at the price point of $5,800. The price even comes down now. He's a guy who is too cheap. He's played a little bit over his head in the last 2 games. And if I'm going to say that I like Kyrie to take more shots today, and Kyrie came out in the media and said he has to take more shots and be more aggressive, I think the primary guy that takes away from is probably Tatum. So I'm going to stay a little bit underweight on Tatum today. And if I usually just run one lineup and I put it into like most of the tournaments, most single entries and a couple of high dollar ones. So that lineup probably won't have Tatum early as I speak. But again, if you have 5,800, 6,000, 6,300 left, landing on Tatum is not a bad thing. Just for me today, after 2 great performances and thinking Kyrie's going to be more aggressive today, I'm going to slight away from that. Kyrie saying that to the media means something. It's not just after the game talk. Like he, in his head after the game, was thinking, I need to be more aggressive if we're going to win. I need to take 30 shots, and he said that to the media. I'm not taking that lightly. I'm actually going to weigh that pretty well. So moving forward, Marcus Morris is now $5,300. Came off his best performance, the most minutes he's seen in the playoffs, the most minutes he's seen in recent time that I can remember. He saw like 34 and a half minutes. I have him projected for 32 today. $5,300, he's still fine. I have him coming up around 27, 28 fantasy points, and that's just as a median. And that median should be maybe pushed up. Because he's been playing a little bit out of his mind. Marcus Morris in the playoffs has been very aggressive. We've seen over a point per minute out of him when he's usually during the regular season averaging around 0.95 points per minute. So Marcus Morris, $5,300. Yeah, he's interesting for me for sure. Al Horford, $6,700. The price is still too cheap. Haven't projected for literally just under 40. It's like 39.8 fantasy points today. Played 38 minutes in the last game, 37 the game before that. You could feel really confident in getting a floor around that 37, 38-minute mark out of Al Horford today. He needs to be out there to give anything and everything he can against Giannis. So I do like Al Horford. I'm not going to say that. I was going to say the only issue is if you want a ceiling game out of Horford, like a 60-plus point game, it's going to probably have to come at the expense of a guy like Giannis, but that's probably not true. I mean, fantasy for the most part is offensive. Yes, a couple of blocks or steals on Giannis. It might hurt Giannis's overall production. He doesn't have a couple more baskets if they're blocked, but it's not going to be anything major. So Al Horford, yeah, I think he's fine at 6,700, and I realize that I'm saying, like, I think a lot of these guys are fine. They're all way too cheap. So when I give my takes, I don't want Jaylen Brown, I don't want Rozier, and I'm probably not going to have Jason Tatum. So I'm just telling you guys that right now. So there's the guys I don't want. I have a little bit of interest in Marcus Morris still or a decent amount of interest in Marcus Morris at 5,300. A little bit of interest in Al Horford just because of the price. So we're talking lineup construction now. The price might be a little bit tough for me. A lot of interest in Kyrie Irving, and then the bench just for me, I don't want it. I don't want Marcus Smart playing limited minutes. Gordon Hayward is 4,100. That's interesting. He's in my player pool right now. Slight interest. I have to see who I can fit in. I'd rather have Pat Connaughton and George Hill at the same price points pretty much than Gordon Hayward, but I think the field would rather too. I think Gordon Hayward could very easily only see 25 minutes today if they decide to take 2 more of his minutes. He saw less minutes in the last game, and I believe that was because of Marcus Smart coming back. So still at 4,100, Hayward, if he's going to be out there, grab some rebounds, and if he just shoots decently well, he can get you there. So he's in my player pool right now as well, and you're going to see my player pool in a second. So let's move forward with that. Golden State and Houston. Let's break this one down. So 219.5 game total here, 112.75 for Golden State and 106.75 for Houston. They're going back to Golden State, tied 2-2. The series has been a ton of fun. The Warriors are a 6-point favorite. Starting with Steph Curry, with 7,700, finally came through, scored 50 plus fantasy points, right? Unless he was right at 49. Let's check Steph. Again, I went to Curry, 49.5. I went to Curry in the last game, scored pretty much the same points as Irving. That worked out decently well for me. 7,900, it's still fine to go back to him, right? He's coming home now, but I'm going to go away. For $300 more, I feel a little bit better about Kyrie here. And at the very least, I don't think Curry outscores Kyrie. And it depends on ownership. If Curry's 15% owned for some reason, which I doubt, and Kyrie is 60, which, I mean, maybe it's possible. If 15% seems too low, then yeah, I'll go to Curry. But I don't think there's a situation tonight where if they're at somewhat equal, even if it's a 20% difference, I still probably lean Kyrie and get different elsewhere. I don't think there's a situation where Steph goes for 70 and Kyrie only goes for 40. It could happen, but I don't think that's possible. I think the worst situation for me tonight, if I was to go to Kyrie over Irving, to go to Kyrie over Steph, would be Steph scoring 60 points and Kyrie scoring 45. So it's a 15-point difference. That sucks. Like, that would suck, but I think that's the worst situation. I think the most realistic. And right now, I have Steph projected for, I believe, around 44 fantasy points tonight, and I have Kyrie projected for around 48. So yeah, it's very close. I lean Kyrie. So Steph is fine though. I'm not going to get to Clay right now. Just Clay's not even in my player pool. The price point, the minutes are there. The thing that was interesting was in the last game, Kevon Looney saw 22 minutes. He saw an increase in minutes, and you didn't see a lot of Clint Capella out there on the opposite side, so it was interesting to see that. I couldn't find any foul trouble. I don't know why they went with that rotation, but it ended up impacting Clay. He didn't get his normal 40-minute run in that game. I think he only saw, if I remember correctly, 36 minutes or 34 even maybe. So yeah, Clay saw 36 after continuously seeing 40 a game in these playoffs, 41. So he saw pretty much 5 less minutes than he's been seeing in this series. And those 5 minutes, for the most part, went to Kevon Looney, who's been seeing only 16 minutes a game. And then he saw 22. So I don't expect that to continue. I don't know why that rotation was like that. If somebody knows, you can let me know. I have Kevon Looney back to 18 minutes today, gave those 4 minutes back to Clay, so he's at 40. I'm not going to have Clay. I rarely get to Clay. Maybe it's a personal bias that I have to evaluate after the season. I just rarely have Clay. The one time of playoffs that he scores 40 points, sure, I'll just lose that day, but I'm not going to continue to throw darts at it and lose every single other day. Iggy came out with a little bit of an injury. He's probable today. His price point at 4,700, I believe, or 4,800. It's still fair. He's going to play if he is healthy, which is probable. He says he is. 32 minutes, like as a minimum, starting at the 3 is Hampton's 5 lineup. So I do like that. But at 4,800, I'd rather pay $100 more and get Bledsoe personally. I'd rather pay down and go to the George Hills and the Mirotics, who are going to play, or not the George Hills, and the Mirotics, and I think Mirotics 46, and even Pat Connaughton, who are going to play, in Mirotic and Connaughton's case, a few less minutes, sure, and even Bledsoe, a few less minutes, sure, but more productive minutes, I would argue. Excuse me, need some water. So I'm not going to get much Clay, I'm not going to get much Iggy. Durant, I'm going to try and prioritize Durant today. Came off a very good game that seemed like he didn't do too much. Still scored over 50-plus fantasy points. He's still only 9,300. Look, Kawhi has been playing the best in the playoffs. He's right there as well. So is Jokic. All three of those, the three best runs right now in the playoffs are those three. I'd rank it Kawhi, Jokic, Durant in that order. Durant's 9,300. He's way too cheap. I loved Kawhi yesterday at 95. I love Durant today. If I can fit in a Giannis and Durant lineup, I like it. The only thing is that I can't get to Irving, which I'm very much loving Kyrie today. But Durant, I just don't see how this guy gets held down. They can't guard him. Now the fact that PJ Tucker, at least in the last game, is playing more minutes at the 5, significantly more minutes. We only saw 4 minutes in Nene. We saw no Kenneth Faried in the last game, and we only saw 21 or 22 minutes of Clint Capella without foul trouble. They just went away from Clint Capella. They realized that this is not a good matchup for him. And you got PJ Tucker dominating, scored over 40 fantasy points because he played more minutes at the center. If you're new here, playing more minutes at the center means just easy rebounds, like easy just walk away rebounds, easy, much easier shots, 2-point shots, 3-point shots. More block upside, double upside. Just you're going to get a lot more points at the center. You can see right here from the target offense sheet, there's just more points. So I can imagine that continues. They played well with it in the last game. They really haven't relied on Clint Capella outside of one quarter in Game 3. He played well in like the second quarter of Game 3, and that was really it. I think Tucker, he's been playing extremely well in these playoffs. He continues to see minutes at the 5, which helps Durant. Tucker going to the 5. And here's the thing, though. Tucker going to the 5 does not mean he comes off of Durant guarding him, so maybe that's wrong of me to say. I actually have not checked the defensive matchups if Tucker came away from Durant. But either way, Durant's shooting over everybody. He's playing well. If Tucker does stay at the 5 and continues and plays that on defense a little bit more, guarding Draymond, again, that just helps Durant way more. Draymond, 7,200, still too cheap. Draymond is averaging like right around 45 fantasy points a game in the playoffs. His price finally is over 7K for the first time, I believe. He's too cheap. So in terms of the Warriors, it's Durant and it's Draymond for me, pretty far and away. I probably won't have Iggy or Clay in my player pool, and Steph's going to be a game time decision call on between Kyrie and my lineups if that's where I end up going, depending on ownership. And I'd lean Kyrie probably even if the ownership gap is a little moderately wide. But again, the biggest decision for me today will be I'm probably leaning Giannis over Harden again, and maybe that's wrong to continue to go back to that well, but if I think he's going to play 38 minutes of Giannis to me is always going to be more productive. Not always, but statistically more productive probably 70% of the time than Harden. And we've gotten that in back-to-back games, barely in the last game, but we've gotten that. Maybe it's a night to go to Harden and Giannis if you could fit in the value. There is some value. It's possible. There's a lot of 4K value tonight and a few 3K. So that's where I'm at with Golden State. Steph, again, like I said, game time decision there. The hardest decision, like I said, it's going to be, do I want to go with a guy like Giannis over Harden? And then after that, do I want to go Giannis with Kyrie, which is a little bit cheaper? You get a little more money, $1,000, $1,100 savings. Or do I want to go Giannis with KD? And I'm tempted to say Kyrie there, but I'm also believing that that's what everybody's going to do. So we have to see. Houston side of the ball, Chris Paul's too cheap, 6,500. Look, when I said you could be unique today, probably unique, and only take Giannis or only take Harden, one high-level guy, and then fill it in with the rest of the value, there's a lot of mid-tier value that is great today. You get Chris Paul, 6,500. And if you're going to play Chris Paul in one of the high ends, I would recommend playing Giannis, because if you want Chris Paul to reach your 50-point ceiling, it probably means that Harden's not reaching his 75-point ceiling or 70-point ceiling, which he can. It can happen, but it's just not likely, as likely. So Chris Paul, again, Draymond Green, once again, you have Al Horford, you have Middleton, all these guys in the mid-tier that you can pair up with just one stud, and you're getting a very nice balanced lineup of guys who can very easily all go out there tonight and score 45 to 50 fantasy points, right? Chris Paul can do it. Middleton has done it in this series. We've seen Al Horford do it in the series. We've seen every single night almost Draymond Green go for over 40 fantasy points in the playoffs. So yeah, it's definitely a good series. Sorry, there's just so much construction outside my house, but either way. So I think that's a great way to go lineup construction-wise. Harden, don't have to say much about Harden, right? He's going to play 40 to 42 minutes, probably more minutes than usual today. Game 5 is very pivotal. Have him playing 42, have Chris Paul playing right around 40. I do like Paul a little bit more point per dollar-wise, especially because I'm very high on Giannis tonight. So that's where I sit. Harden, there's not much to say, right? He's playing great. There's no analysis there for me like there was Giannis with the minutes being a little limited. He's going to play great. It just depends. Who do you want more? If you want both of them, find the value. I think playing both of them, you're missing out on a lot of the 6K to mid 7K range of guys that is going to be needed tonight if you're going to play both Giannis and Harden. I don't think it's viable. Eric Gordon been playing well, but 5,700 too much. I don't have Eric Gordon in my player pool. He's been playing well, but $5,700. There's a lot of other guys I'd rather go to, including guys on his team. Power forward spot is where PJ Tucker would be, right? But he's been playing a lot of center minutes, and you're going to get Clint Capella most likely starting at the 5 tonight. But I don't know what it is. If somebody can explain it to me, there's no foul trouble. Clint Capella only saw 21 and a half, 22 minutes in the last game. You had Nene check in for him in the first quarter for 4 minutes. Capella played the first 8, then Nene checked in for 4 minutes. And then it was pretty much Austin Rivers taking all of his minutes, which is a weird rotation. They went a little bit smaller, which is the way you should go against the Warriors and the way that we saw the Clippers go. Zubac pretty much got out of that rotation, and they went with a smaller lineup with JaMychal Green as the series went on, right? So that seems like what the Rockets are doing now. So you get less Clint Capella, which makes him unplayable for me. And even if you're going to tell me that he's going to play 30 minutes, he's still not the greatest of plays, right? The price is fine, but I'm not going to Clint Capella, especially with the minutes in jeopardy. And you had Austin Rivers come in and play big minutes. Austin Rivers came in, played 15 minutes in the first half, and then he played the last 18 and a half minutes of the game. That's a lot of minutes. 18 and a half minutes. He finished last 6 minutes and 18 seconds, I believe, of the third quarter, and then the whole fourth quarter. So he scored 22 fantasy points in the first half, only like 4.5 or 5 in the second half. So he's still Austin Rivers. I only have him projected for like 16.5 points today, but he's $3,500. So when you're talking the 3K value, he's probably the best 3K value. Also, Amon Shumpert, 3,100 if he's going to play 20 minutes with no Daniel House. I mean, he's worth a flyer, probably more so on FanDuel, but 3,100 opens stuff up for you. I prefer Rivers there just because the minutes are more secure. But again, I was wrong. I was wrong in the last game based on the results to not be having Austin Rivers in my player pool or recommending him as much. I pretty much said I don't want any of him, but my logic was not wrong. The game before that, he only saw extended minutes. He only saw 28 minutes because there was foul trouble on guys like PJ Tucker. That's the only reason. He checked directly in for them. This past game, he just directly took away Clint Capella's minutes. So yes, I am much more interested now in Austin Rivers. Again, he's not going to score a point per minute or whatever he did in the first half. He scored 1.2 points per minute in the first half of the last game. That's not going to happen. We saw his actual production in the second half, 18 minutes, only scoring like 5 fantasy points, right? But again, if you're going to play 28, 30 minutes, which if Clint Capella's minutes are actually going to be limited, I imagine they stick with this rotation. You're going to play 28 or 30 minutes, you're going to just back your way into some points, and at 3,500, you don't need plenty. So Rivers is in my early interest. He's not a must for me by any means. He's a 0.65 fantasy point per minute guy, but he is in my player pool. PJ Tucker, I'm considering him the center of this team for half the game. He played great. He got a lot of center minutes, and he had his best playoff performance yet. He's had a lot of great performances, but if he's going to play center minutes now, and he's going to play around 20 center minutes a game. He played like 16 or 18 in the last one. Yeah, sign me up for that. That's just now he doesn't have to rely on his 3-point shooting from the corner and rely on a couple of blocks or a steal. He can get easier rebounds. He can get put back offensive rebounds. He had a few in the last game. So yeah, PJ Tucker. I remember the one play, missed his layup, got the offensive rebound, put it in for an and one. Like he got like 6 points right there. That's what happens when you play the center position. You're going to be exposed to those opportunities. So love PJ Tucker. The value for me right now on the slate, loads of it is in the Milwaukee game. Mirotic, George Hill, Pat Connaughton, Bledsoe, and even Brook Lopez, all in the 4K range. That's where the value lies, but you have the extreme value on the Houston side with $3,500 Rivers, and even $3,100 Amon Shumpert is worth a mention playing 20 minutes a game in the playoffs at that price point. So that's where I'm at. If I had to rank Houston based on my interest, obviously Harden point per dollar and just overall points, or just overall points is going to be a great play. I have Chris Paul right now at 6,500, going to score right around 41 fantasy points, 42 fantasy points today. So yeah, I like Chris Paul a lot at that price point. So for me personally, I rank it Chris Paul, Harden, and this is just not for this game. I'm factoring in the other games. Since I know I'm going to get to more Giannis, at least early on, it's going to mean that I'm going to probably end up with more Chris Paul than Harden because I don't think playing Harden and Giannis today is viable based on all the other price points in the 6K range. So it's Chris Paul for me, then it's Harden, then it's PJ Tucker. And honestly, Chris Paul and Tucker for me is probably what I land on most. But just in general, it's Chris Paul, Harden, Tucker, Austin Rivers based on pricing, and then you could fill in the rest with your Eric Gordons. Clint Capella, I don't want any of. So let me just go to this early interest quickly. This is what I'm looking at early on. This is like a 15, 16 person player pool. It's in pricing order. I have Giannis, I have KD. Steph for me should be highlighted in yellow because this is only going to be an ownership thing. If Steph has half the ownership as Kyrie, and Kyrie is 60% owned and Steph is only 30%, I would lean more to Steph there. I have Kyrie projected for a little bit more points, but I lean more to Steph there, although I'm very high on Kyrie today. I love Chris Paul, love Middleton. That mid-range is just stacked. Draymond should be on this sheet. Oh, no, Draymond is. I don't know why his price is not factoring up with the rest of them, but either way. Bledsoe 4,900 is interesting. I'm not like even dying to play Bledsoe at that price point, but it's clearly too cheap. Draymond averaging 45 fantasy points a game in the playoffs, 7,200, clearly still too cheap, doing fine in this series. And now if you're going to get Capella, the only true big off the court, sure, PJ Tucker might guard Draymond a little bit more, which is the best defender on that team in terms of the bigs, PJ Tucker. might hurt Draymond a little bit, but this guy he's a different animal in the playoffs, Draymond. It's just fantastic to watch. Mirotic, 4,600, Lopez, all great. Marcus Morris is now priced up to a point where I prefer Mirotic over him, but Morris has just been so productive, around 1.1 fantasy points per minute over the last 3 games. That's hard to pass up. I have Marcus Morris on here twice. That does not mean I like him twice as much. That's a mistake. Gordon Hayward, 4,100, we mentioned him. He's too cheap. Even if I have him at 26 minutes today. He could play 25. I can see that. I can see him getting cut down to 24. 4,100, even at 24 minutes, is still too cheap. PJ Tucker, 5,100, I like that. I like Pat Connaughton at 4K. And Austin Rivers is the best 3K price range guy. You could also put him on Shumpert on this list. I probably don't get to much. And if I don't need a deep value guy like Rivers, I'm not going to go there. Him coming off of a few good games in elevated minutes is nice to see, but it's almost as if the ship has passed there. I think his minutes are going to be more stable now, like around 26 or 28, but I'm not dying to get to a highly owned Austin Rivers now if I don't have to. So we're going to see how the slate breaks out. I'm leaning to just go Giannis and a bunch of mid-K or mid-range guys like your Chris Pauls, Middletons, Greens, but not having a Kyrie, Durant, or Harden alongside Giannis, or more so a Kyrie or Durant or Steph, since they're a little cheaper, seems scary. So we'll see how it goes. But thank you guys so much for watching this. Hit me with a like. Again, who do you think scores the most pure fantasy points tonight on DK? Giannis or Harden? Or is it somebody else? I think it's Giannis. And before you leave, subscribe. Hopefully by the time you're watching this, we have 4,000 subscribers. We'll do a little giveaway for that too. Peace out, gang.